Hi, Frank Keck here. Today we're going to talk about word whiskers. Word whiskers are those annoying little sounds that you make instead of being quiet. They happen when we're nervous. They happen, the filler words, when we don't know what to do. They typically come at the end of a sentence. They're words such as so, like, or maybe at the end of a sentence, they're a question, right? So word whiskers are us kind of being lazy, not necessarily doing it on purpose, but we're afraid to allow for some silence. So at the end of the sentence, after you've made your point, silence is golden. If you give some silence, that gives your audience time to catch up and think about what you just said. You can't talk too fast, right? The average person speaks 150 to 200 words a minute, but we listen at 800 to 1,000. So people are waiting for you to speak. You can't speak too fast. But at the end of the sentence, a lot of times they want some time to process what you just said. The other thing is that's for the small chunk, right? The detail-oriented people, they're going to want to catch up. But the big chunk people, the people who you've already lost, when you're quiet, it sends a message to their brain. Hey, something else is going on here. You need to pay attention again. We call it a pattern interruption. So it's a great way to get people's attention back. So using silence as a way to re-engage your audience, let part of your audience catch up, others help them to re-engage. When you use a word whisker, annoying. It makes you sound less intelligent. In my case, I got to sound as intelligent as I can, right? And it disengages your audience because they kind of get tired of hearing that same word over and over and over again. And so their brain just says, oh, this is the same thing. And so we're going to go pay attention to something else. I was first alerted to the whole concept of word whiskers when I went to work at Dale Carnegie, and I worked with Steve Overton. And I was up in front of a group full of about 30, 35 people teaching the Dale Carnegie course. And Steve was in the back of the room coaching me. And I got up front and I started to talk. Well, my word whisker was like. So I said my sentence, and at the end of the sentence, I said like. And he shouted out from the back of the room, like. And everybody looked back at him, and including me, I didn't know I was startled, right? And he said, word whisker. Oh, okay. So I kept going. Well, I used the word like again. He yelled out again, like. It happened 3 times. And then I stopped. And it's simply an awareness thing. So if you can get somebody to coach you, somebody to listen to you and to let you know, you have a word whisker. I worked at Circuit City for a while, and there was a store manager there, and she was really trying to build credibility as a leader. She went to do a presentation in front of, I think there were 3 or 4 different stores there. We were all there to hear all the wonderful things that she had to teach us. She got in and she had the worst word whisker I had ever heard to that point. So about every 3rd or 4th word was so. It got to the point, people were so disengaged that the guy sitting next to me counted how many times she used the word whisker so. Now, if people are counting how many times you use a word whisker, they're probably not paying attention to what you're saying. They're probably not engaged with what it is you are communicating. So I know people walked away that day, and the biggest thing they got was, wow, that store manager used this word so 437 times in 25 minutes. That's a lot of words to use in that amount of time. So it can be very distracting. Recently, my 9-year-old daughter was getting ready to take some acting lessons, and we were on a Zoom call with the person who was going to be the coach. And she got on and she had a word whisker, and her word whisker was And again, about every 4th or 5th word, you would hear And after about 5 minutes of this, once or twice, it's okay, you can get away with it, but now it becomes repetitive. And I turned to my wife, Rachel, and I said, you know what? If she's supposed to help our daughter become better on stage, and she's got that horrific word whisker that's so blatantly obvious, maybe this is not the right person to be that coach for us. So you can lose credibility, right? People may not know why they don't trust you as much, but they don't trust you. They're annoyed. They become disengaged. So pause at the end, take a deep breath. Silence is power. It can re-engage people. It can give people time to stop and think about what you just said. It gives you, as the speaker, power. Also, you can then think about what you want to say next. Have somebody coach you about what word whiskers you have. Just ask some of your friends, hey, would you pay attention as I speak, as I give my speech to the team or whatever it is, and just let me know if I have a word whisker, a word that I just kind of use at the end of the sentence. I have one client, part of their culture is people end with the word right. So they'll say a sentence where they're telling you something and they'll end it with right, and then it turns into a question. Well, if you tell me something that maybe now that has authority and you're telling me how to do it, but when you add a question mark at the end, completely changes the context of the message and the power of the message. And that's not at all what they're intending. So word whiskers, they're out there. They're impacting us. Be aware of them. You can fix them. Took me 3 times, right? From my coach, I don't necessarily recommend that you do that, but it works. But the biggest thing is to become aware of them. And once you're aware that you're using them, find out what your word whisker is, and then make sure that you practice taking a breath instead of saying that word. I'm Frank Keck. That is my little lunch and learn about word whiskers. Hope the rest of your day is great.